Hi, my name is Kelly Phones. I am an educator here at Montavilla Sewing Centers located in the Portland, Oregon area. Today we are going to be talking about all of the settings on the Janome Continental M7. To access your settings, you're going to tap the little button that looks like a gear on your machine. Settings are where you can customize how you want your machine to behave. This is your buzzer right here. So this is the volume that the machine's going to alert you at. You don't want to turn it off because you do want the machine to alert you if something is going wrong with it, or if you've touched the wrong button. Screen brightness is pretty self-explanatory. Depending on your ambient light, you may want that brighter or softer. You can switch it to millimeters, or inches is the default. Bobbin winding speed, if you're working with a more delicate thread, say a silk, you can reduce that speed here. Anywhere you see this little gray arrow, that means that's the default setting. You can change all of your lighting. You can customize all of it. So I can turn individual lights off. This section kind of makes me giggle because I can't really figure out why I would want less lighting. Sometimes if I'm using a really dark fabric, can be a little easier to see the thread. So that's maybe one application. Date and time setting. This you definitely want on. I know I forget to take my needle plate off and clean out my bobbin case and my hook area. I usually don't think about it unless I have a problem with the machine. So this is going to alert you after every 5 hours of sewing time to go ahead and take your needle plate off and clean out the whole area. So to do that, you're going to lock your machine, and you want to raise your foot. And see this little icon down here? This is how you take your needle plate off. There's no screws you have to take out. There's no button you have to push. It does it electronically, and you simply remove it. Oh, good. We're going to do the bobbin again. Take your bobbin case out and make sure all of this area is free from lint, and there is a little brush you got with your machine. There are many attachments for your vacuum that work really well, which I tend to do. I will caution you not to use the cans of air, because when you shoot the cans of air into the machine, you're blowing all the fiber and dust and whatnot into the machine, and you want to remove it and not blow it further into the machine. Janomes have this little bar here that's part of your tension system. So when you are cleaning it, make sure that you don't get overly enthusiastic and pop that off the spring that it's on. If you do, you will need to bring your machine in and have it put back on. And of course, take these bobbin cases out all the time. And because I'm filming, I can't get it back in easily. So then to put your needle plate back on, you just set it on and it automatically resets itself. Let's put our bobbin back in. And remember, that is off to the left. Come underneath, up and around. And we're all set to go again. Touchscreen calibration, I would encourage everyone to do that. It simply helps the machine learn how you touch your screen, and it makes sure that where you're touching is also where the machine thinks you're touching the screen. needle plate after time setting. So if you'll notice, the plate pops up and it waits a little bit and then it pulls it back down. The default is 4 seconds. You can increase that default. I don't remember having changed mine. It seems like 4 seconds works fine. Standby timer, screensaver, all of those kinds of things, they just manage when your machine turns itself off with the auto off. These are more like they go into sleep mode. So if I have an embroidery machine as well, so if I'm working on embroidery and I'm away from this machine for a while, it'll go into screensaver mode and all I have to do is tap on the screen to wake it back up. Background color, you can select different ones. If you are going to use a flash drive to import custom designed stitches, you will need to go ahead and format your flash drive here. Reset to default just simply resets everything that you've changed and you're starting from scratch. So those are the machine settings. These are the sewing settings. Thread cut after auto lock means that if you use one of these 2 buttons, it's automatically going to cut your thread for you. Most of the time I like that on. Needle stop position means that if you pause sewing, it's going to stop with the needle in your fabric. Also, I have that on most of the time. Auto tension, I leave on default. Presser foot pressure, I also tend to leave on default. If I'm working with some thicker fabric, I'm doing some free motion, generally it works fine with the auto functions. You can, however, easily come in and adjust them. You can also adjust them in the individual stitch, so that's where I tend to make my changes. Once you change something in your settings, it's going to stay changed until you go back in and change it. I don't always remember to do that, so I prefer to change those for individual tasks. Feed dogs up, feed dogs down. One way to set this up for free motion or thread painting is to simply come into settings and drop your feed dogs. But remember, if you do that, every time you turn your machine on, the machine will default to being set up with your feed dogs down. So to change that back, you just go into your settings and bring your feed dogs back up. So what that's telling the machine is every time you turn it on, you want to start with your feed dogs up. You want your upper sensor on and you want your bobbin thread sensor on. Mainly because you want to know if something is malfunctioning on the machine. Foot height for pivot, default is 3 millimeters. Pivot means that when you get to a corner, it's going to drop your needle and it's going to raise your foot a smidge so you can reposition your fabric. Default is a 3 millimeter smidge, which is about 1/8 of an inch. For most applications, that works fine. You can easily change that default. Adjustable startup speed. So this is telling the machine to start up at it, regardless of what setting you have here, to start at a moderate pace and then go up to full speed, just so you can, make sure you have everything starting correctly. Variable zigzag is a free motion or thread painting option that you use your knee lift with. And by changing the position of the knee lift, you can change the width of your zigzag on the fly. Favorite stitch adjustment, you definitely want that on. I'll be showing you more of that in a little bit. Resume mode, you want that on. Resume mode means that if you've been working on whatever stitch you were using, however you had your machine set up when you turned it off, when you turn it back on, it's going to ask you if you want to resume that same function. You can say yes or no, but you know, saves a lot of hassles since the machine remembers what you were doing before, even if I don't. So I tend to have that turned on. This last one, you're simply choosing which language you would prefer to be working in. So if you're, for instance, trying to learn Spanish, you can turn it on to Spanish, which I believe I had my machine on Spanish setting right now. So those are all of the settings on the machine. They're pretty straightforward. If you do need extra information about it, remember, whichever one you're looking at, you can scan this with the AccuSpark app on your phone or your tablet. This is available on both Android devices as well as Apple devices. So that's all of the settings on the Continental M7. Be sure to check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.